I'll see you there. Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. I'm back with my co-host for this evening, Dr. Eric Goldman, an expert on Jewish, Yiddish, and Israeli cinema. Thanks for being here, Eric.
Thank you, Robert.
Glad to have you here. Now, our next film is The Juggler, not a well-known film from 1953. It was filmed in Europe, produced by Stanley Kramer, directed by Edward Dmytryk, and it stars Kirk Douglas, certainly a major star at this point in his career. But why did you particularly pick this film for our series?
Again, it's groundbreaking material. Why would anyone want to make a film about a Holocaust survivor? So the Holocaust itself is a subject that most Americans have little interest in. They know little about.
Right.
And now all of a sudden to focus on a survivor of the Holocaust, and of all places, a survivor in the Holocaust who's struggling, trying to find his place in Israel. So Israel was a subject not dealt with a great deal, and certainly the Holocaust was a subject that no one wanted to touch. And Stanley Kramer decides to take Michael Blankford's story, asks Michael to write the screenplay, and you have, Kirk Douglas has already been successful.
Right.
Kirk Douglas has a special connection with Israel as a Jewish man himself. So boom, they go ahead and they move forward. And again, just like The Stranger, groundbreaking.
Yeah. And Kirk Douglas had just come out of The Bad and the Beautiful, so he had a blockbuster he could afford to be a little risky here. But it's like The Stranger, which we just showed. Daring for somebody to do this. It took Stanley Kramer, an independent producer, to bring it to the fore. The fact that he wanted to do it is very curious.
Yeah, Kramer has a special sensitivity to being Jewish. A lot of the Hollywood movie moguls, they see something Jewish, they go in the other direction.
Right.
Kramer doesn't feel that way. And he goes to Blankford, who also has written other stories that deal with the Jewish experience. They're ready to do this. They're saying, we're comfortable. We're ready to do this. It's the 1950s. It's time. And this is a serious issue. What happens to people who experience the Holocaust? And how has it changed them?
So I don't recall it as being a terribly popular film at the time it came out.
It's just not a subject that Americans were ready for.
Yeah. So when did that change? Why did it change?
I think it really changed in 1960 with the Eichmann trial. Because what happened was that when the Israelis put Eichmann on trial, who gave testimony? Survivors. And it was the first time in Israel that Israelis really heard their story. And what happened was that every day, that footage was loaded onto a plane, sent to New York, and became part of the daily news. You watched the news show, you watched a minute or two from the Eichmann trial here in America, and we heard testimony, and we said, wow, we had no idea. We didn't quite understand what they experienced. And also, I think they needed, the survivors themselves, needed that decade and a half to be ready.
15 years after.
To share, because it's not something they wanted to share necessarily.
Well, let's see the film. Here it is, a movie made by Kirk Douglas just after his blockbuster hit, The Bad and the Beautiful in 1952. Here from 1953, produced by Stanley Kramer, The Juggler.